much for sparing time for us. This, of course, is the Business Today Knowledge Forum on Human Resources, presented by SRM University. This is the second year of this series. We do it in 4 cities. We just had one in Delhi last week. It was a huge success. So we had 2 topics there. One was on how you could groom younger leaders, and the second one was on whether today's HR managers are equipped to handle industrial relations. So I have noticed some industrial IR people here in the audience. I think you will enjoy reading about the discussion on our website and in the magazine. The videos will also be there. So we'll do the same for this also. So today in Bangalore, we have 2 very, very interesting topics. And after Bangalore, we'll be doing next part of the series in Hyderabad and then in Mumbai in March. So our first panel today is on social media. How social media is changing the workplace. Social media is changing a lot of things, changing our work habits, our personal habits, the way we communicate, the way we connect with people long forgotten, and also related to work. So how social media is changing the workplace is a very, very pertinent topic today. I'm sure you'll all agree. And we have a very powerful lineup of panelists here, experts who will tell you what it means and what we need to do. So first, I'd like to call on Shamni Pandey. Shamni heads HR reporting for Business Today, and she's been doing it for several years. She's a veteran. She's done several great stories for the magazine, and she will moderate the discussion. Then I call on the first panelist, Ilango R. of Mphasis. Ilango is the global CHRO and head of emerging geographies SBU for Mphasis. Mphasis, of course, everybody knows, is one of India's top software companies. Ilango happens to be a specialist in mergers and acquisitions, which incidentally is a topic that we have held back for Mumbai. So maybe you want to just listen to that when that happens. And Ilango is very social media savvy. We found that out very fast. And he has earlier worked with the Raheja Group, UB Group, and Bank of America. Next, may I call on Gautam Ghosh of Flipkart. Gautam is the Director of Talent Branding at Flipkart. Flipkart, of course, everybody knows, is India's largest and leading e-commerce company. Gautam has been tweeting about this event, so I'd like to give a special thanks to him for promoting it. He is a champ at social media, and he understands employee trends. He understands the landscape. He has advised several companies, both Indian and foreign, on how social media is changing business, which incidentally is today's topic. So great to have you here, Gautam. Thanks for joining us. May I then call on Chris Laxmikant of Headhunters India. Chris is the founder, CEO, and managing director of Headhunters India. It is one of India's leading executive search companies. Executive search companies, you know what it means. So if you have a CV around, you know who to contact after this event is over. And Chris's clientele ranges from the Tatas to the Ambanis to the Birlas, big names. And of course, he himself has played a huge role in the company's growth and influence. Then may I call on Shilpa to join us. Shilpa from Bharti AXA General Insurance. Shilpa Ved, she is the CHRO and Corporate Responsibility Officer of Bharti AXA General Insurance. We tried to bring you on the panel last year, but we couldn't. I think you were too busy. So we're really happy that you could join us this year. And she has worked in the insurance sector for very long. Her husband also is in the insurance sector, which is what she tells me, and they have lots to fight over, apart from insurance. So she has worked also with Aviva, ICICI Prudential, which is where her husband works now, right? And with MetLife. And she brings a really unique perspective to the table to today's discussion. Finally, may I call on Vijay Raghavan from Stimpeutics. It's a new emerging global sector, a sector that has interest everybody. Vijay Raghavan is the general manager of HR and corporate relations in Stimpeutics Research, which is a, sorry? Right, okay. I had to struggle a bit initially when I was practicing. And it's a Manipal Education and Medical Group enterprise. It's a stem cell research company. The company develops medicinal products based on stem cell technology. which all of us know is a nascent technology and a very promising one. So Stempiotics apparently does a lot of its hiring from social media. So Vijay is a great guy to have on our panel today. Thank you so much for joining us. Apart from HR, he looks after a lot of other things in the company. He looks after supply chain, public relations, IT, and general administration. What does the CEO do? I'd like to know.
He takes care of R&D.
Okay. CEO takes care of R&D. He takes care of everything else. So he has earlier worked with Aditya Birla Group, ITC Hotels, Indian Hotels, and Oberoi Group. That's a lot of hotel experience. So that's your panel, ladies and gentlemen. It's a fantastic panel, and we look forward to a great discussion. Shamini, over to you.
Thank you, Alokesh, for those warm words, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I really look forward to this discussion today, and I'm hoping that we will find lots of challenges posed to each other. This is supposed to be a community thing, and it's a subject which it's just wide open out there for people to talk about, share their views, because there's no written script. People are discovering their way along when it comes to employer branding, when it comes to the way they recruit, when it comes to how employees should be behaving on this platform. So, just about any subject that comes to your mind can become a topic of huge learning and debate. When it comes to employer branding, in fact, I was just discussing a little ahead in the earlier part of the evening when with Shilpa and I said, what comes to your mind when you talk of employer branding? The Army is looking for talent, Army is looking for you, the HCL campaign on air, but increasingly as you go forward in time, a lot of it is happening within the community in the way which probably is reaching out very individually to people about what companies are doing, what they have to offer for individuals. So, you name it, each area is, bubbling over with a huge potential. So, Chris had very interesting thoughts about how, actually how the young people are very with it with this platform, but companies don't allow people, they don't even allow access to these platforms. A large part of the companies don't allow, and some of them are just kind of loosening up. So maybe you want to share some thoughts, some top thoughts. I'll go by each one of you to share some of the thoughts that you have, Chris, that you want to talk about.
Till last year, most companies were not allowing I'm talking of software companies, they were not allowing their employees to go to social media or even to Yahoo Mail and Google Mail. But recently we see things have changed. Infosys, under the new management after Vishal Sikka has come, has permitted it. Basically, the millennium people who are working in these companies and who form the majority of these companies, in the workforce in these companies, they are used to social media. And at least 2 to 3 hours a day they spend on social media. So if the company is not offering them this opportunity, sometimes they look for jobs outside the company. So I think what Vishal Sikka has done, many of these other MNC companies have done it earlier, and I think this trend will continue.
Yeah, I mean, we did Business Today did a story which spoke about how many companies would not even allow people to be on forget social platforms to, do e-commerce shopping, and, they were barred from doing that. And then some companies were loosening up to say, okay, you could access the e-commerce site for about an hour or two, which was very interesting, I thought, because this was all about flexibility at workplace. What is your top thought on that?
So I think companies are left with no choice, and it's probably because right now the access is no longer on the desktop. It's on my mobile. So I don't really need the company's systems to access either social media site or e-commerce site. And this is data. More than 50% of Flipkart sales, gross margin values, are coming from mobile. So it's also about, this. Suddenly we've seen an explosion, and so while I'm digressing from the social media topic.
No, but somewhere the worlds collide.
Absolutely. And the way, when I came into Bangalore, my phone crashed. So I had to buy a phone. I didn't have too much cash. So I went across to the mobile store across and said, which is the cheapest Android phone that you have? And he says, we have a Micromax Bolt. I said, how much is it for? He said, $4,500. For $4,500, I have access to the Android platform, all the apps that you need, from Twitter to Facebook to Swarm to Quora to Flipkart. And so while, and there are more and more, such tools coming out. And it's not really possible for organizations to say,
Stem the tide.
yeah, access is denied or something. But before that, let me kind of step back and the topic per se. Social media, and this is, I'm quoting Santosh Desai at a conference. He said, we are in the silent movie era of this technology, right? And there's the other quote that says, we overestimate technology's impact on the short term and underestimate in the long term. So right now we're noticing social media, but when it really will impact is when you don't really notice it, when it is all around you, ubiquitous, and then it will really, so it's like, as transformative as the automobile. So when automobiles came in, everybody noticed them, they were like an anomaly. But once it becomes a way of life, that's when it actually changes the way people live, people go to work, people travel, and I think social media is the first level. We're actually seeing businesses transforming. So people buying from people, the whole peer collaborative sharing economy with Airbnb, the rise of the Ubers, the Ola cabs, these will start changing entire industries. So it's not just media or the information that is social. Now transactions, goods, services, everything will be
Very interesting, how we come back and we are reaching the barter stage in such a different way altogether.
Absolutely.
And that's where I would want to bring you in, talking about, this whole dynamic of barter that is happening, the fact that companies have no choice. What is your experience? You're quite active on the platform, you write. I would want your top thoughts on this subject. You've just heard about the loosening of the grip, the fact that there's no choice, and we're reaching a stage where there is one-to-one barter which is happening at different levels among people.
Yep. See, the whole social media, it's a platform, right? Like you had the radio, you had the television, the message is the key. Earlier, if I wanted to get a message out, I had to figure out how I have to be nice to you, right? Then Business Today publishes it. Today, I don't care. The middleman or middlewoman is completely out of it. I figured that out when I published my book. I no longer wanted reviews. I just had to go to Gautam Ghosh and get him to retweet it, and then there were 15,000 people who were looking at it, and it started a cascade. So the middleman has completely gotten out of the equation. My reach today, organic reach, is much, much more than what I could have achieved as an individual earlier. For instance, the articles that I publish, I get comments all the way somewhere in North America to Australia to, sometimes Russia. I get a diverse point of view, and my ability to reach out to markets that I didn't have are huge. As an employer, I'll tell you what I'm going through today, right? We're going through a transformation, and when you work in HR, and I'm sure other people in HR will tell you, you always are asked to do more with less. Now, I don't have budgets to go and do a one-page Times of India ad like Gautam's company does, right? But I still have to reach out. I have to hire 3,000 fresh from college grads. Now, we said, what is the best way to get to them? Is what Gautam said earlier. They look for peer recommendations and alumni references. That's not found in a newspaper, that's not found in a magazine. That's found in social platforms. It's very, very easy for me to build and influence a brand. And by the way, they don't read newspapers anymore. Therefore, it's become a lot more easier for me to influence my own opinion, right? So I think, in summary, middleman's gone, your reach's gone up, your cost of reaching out to individual is just such a fraction of what you would have done earlier. It's just made the whole platform very, very powerful.
There's a different cost. You have to be interesting for the audience.
True.
So it's not about, a jazzy, picture.
What you want to say and what will look good, but what is relevant and useful to
In my
the...
previous company, I actually got 3 of my CXOs, the head of strategy, the CEO, and the head of the lighting business, to become social. One big ego puncture for them was, people are not following me. I've put CEO of Philips India on my bio on Twitter, and people are not following me. I said, you have to be interesting. And that's when you kind of lose the, you're not a positional, you don't have a positional power anymore. It's because of the content that you tweet, the things that you write, you have to be interesting. And organizations, in a lot of ways, and
I mean, just legacy doesn't matter. It's what you ultimately have to say on a daily basis or on an hourly basis that
and the
matters.
other folks, the PR folks, the corporate communication folks, the legal folks are all forcing organizations to be safe. Safe is boring. You have to be a little edgy, a little controversial, a little interesting to really get people interested in you.
And also on the other, agree with them on the interesting message, right? Also, this is so instant. I don't have to wait for 24 hours, right? I put the message out, there's no reaction for a minute, I know it's a dud. So your cycles of turnaround are a lot lesser, and therefore your ability to experiment and do things are a lot more. So, okay, it is important that this thing is there, but the chances of getting it right, because you get instant feedback, is also terrific with this.
And
Yeah.
from my perspective, the risk that it also presents for organizations is immense. I was reading somewhere, and I was sharing with Shamni earlier today, potential candidates now get to experience our EVP even without talking to us, right? And there's a research that the Corporate Executive Board has done which says that 80% of the information that potential candidates get about an organization is through informal sources, social media being the highest, and 20% is through us as an organization. So there's opportunity, but there's also a certain amount, from my perspective, risk, if I may say.
Well, I would call it a risk. And I remember I did a workshop for...
You said you won't call it a risk.
I won't call it a risk.
Okay?
I did a workshop for Elango's team. He had a HR offsite. He brought me in to talk about it. And I showed them a site which has, after that, a lot of people are familiar with it, called Glassdoor.
Yes.
And on Glassdoor, it's brutal, and for people who go to MBA colleges, there's another site for that called a Pagal Guy, where, questions that are asked in the interviews, how was the interview, did you learn anything, how was your candidate experience, it's all candid, it's not filtered. But the thing to realize is, those are actually feedback loops for you to kind of take it. So it's a message might trigger a lot of interaction, but if you look at it as a place to listen, and this is where most corporates tend to miss out on, they look at it as a broadcast medium. It is not a broadcast medium. It's unfiltered focus group discussions happening out there for you, whether it's for marketers or whether it's for HR people, and it's for you to kind of take that feedback and say, okay, this is how we better our systems.
I would like to add. See, if you look at the recent controversy about TCS, it all started with the social media. It
True.
started
Yes.
on Facebook, on Twitter, and overnight it became big. So companies have to be aware where they are and how they are going to communicate. What Mr. Mukherjee, who was the head of HR, said in a press conference, suddenly became 25,000 people. And it all happened because of what you can call the social media. It didn't happen because of anything else. It's not that somebody called a press conference and did that. Somebody recorded something on...
Actually, the 25,000 number was given by a business paper,
Yeah, correct.
which was then taken up. So number actually does not originate in social media.
No, but he's right about the point that this whole...
This was a press conference.
Yeah.
There was mainstream media. Mainstream media got it wrong.
No.
And the amplification was...
It took 3 days after that only it
The number
started.
25,000 came from one of the pink papers.
Yeah.
So it did not originate in social media.
I have a
No,
point
I'm
of view on
saying
that,
the
right?
social media was used to, accelerate this thing. So,
Absolutely.
so much so.
No, the
See,
whole thing was seeded on the social platform.
No, the seed was in mainstream media.
No, but
The
who
number
will-
25,000 came from mainstream
No, no,
media.
you didn't
When you give a
understand
number
what
like that, there are going to be people asking questions. Who are these 25,000? The number did not originate in social media.
No, we are not talking
no
of
blogger,
25,000
Twitter
or
user.
Gautam,
Yeah.
It is not 25,000. The fact is, somebody used it and leveraged it. That is what is important.
Absolutely.
Number one. Number two, if you see, one girl got, she recorded a thing with the HR manager and she put it up in Twitter and Facebook,
SoundCloud. Actually.
SoundCloud. So all these things are new things. I don't know how the HR people like you are going to manage.
No, that's the point I was coming to later too, but I'm glad this is not just warming up, it's hotting up right now, and that's, I just love this. So you were saying that this is not the risk, and we had a discussion on industrial relations, and somebody, when we were just starting off the discussion, they said, why the hell are we talking about industrial relations in the context of blue-collar workers? Today you have, issues about unions in the white-collar space, in the services space, in the IT space, and this platform is kind of allowing people to gather together. Movements across the world that have happened using the social platform. So are organizations really prepared to deal with it? There are also issues of ethics, where you allow people to talk and then you seed your own people to track conversations. There is also this ethical issue that somewhere you need to, as individuals, perhaps answers, not perhaps as organizations, because I don't know how organizations are ready to deal with it.
Can I add? See, I was in Chennai last week. I noticed, there were people, about, I think, 100 people outside TCS office. They were crowdsourced, and they were protesting against this. So they didn't come just because of anything. Crowdsourcing happened. Or similarly, you take the IBM case now, where they're talking of 125,000 people. In the last 2 days, we would have got at least 25 people who are in the salary band of 25 lakhs and above, calling me or one of my colleagues. And they're all panicked. They are saying we have not got any, what you can call, pink slip, but they're all prepared for it, mentally prepared for it.
IBM Employees Union website worldwide, where people are sharing what the performance rating was, what it has been for the last 15 years, and how they have been let go right now. So it's happening at a global scale. The other thing is, and I think this is what organizations and brands at a marketing level, the power between institutions and individuals has become equalized. So, like it or not, today, and this was kind of vividly illustrated, there was this guitarist in 4 years ago. His guitar got broken by United Airlines. He made a song for it called United Breaks Guitars and put it up. It was one of the biggest case studies of, so essentially it's not about, so organizations have to realize that the reality has changed. It's no longer,
No, thanks, and I would want to draw, him at this stage. He's been very quiet because he does a lot of recruitment through the social platform. Are you ready? Are you ready for all of this? Or it's just, you're looking at it through a very linear prism of recruitment, this works well for me, and that's it. Have you considered all of these little facets, turns, twists that this platform can take an organization through?
Okay, thank you for bringing me into the discussion. I was intensely, listening to your conversation. When I walked in and when I was invited for this discussion, I didn't know that this is going to be so, the magnitude is going to be so impressive. And when it was repeated that we do recruitment through social network, it is actually a minuscule of what you people do. Our size of my company, the Stimpetix Research, is just about 70 people. And most of them are researchers, scientists, doctors, clinicians. Even in that context, the social media is well integrated from two aspects. One aspect is, from an HR point of view, it's a hygiene today. The absence of the social media and allowing people not to use it leads to dissatisfaction. And the presence is not going to lead to satisfaction. It's just an absence of not having dissatisfaction. Because we are living in a society where people are all surrounded by you who is using social media. So we have an interesting scenario today where People, if they get a reward, they put it on the website, and like at Facebook, people do like it, and those kind of things happen. Having said all these things, we do have a serious approach to recruitment using social media, but not to the scale as to what my fellow people who are sitting here next to me does.
Sure, sure. Thanks for those, that part of the insight. But really, let's focus a little bit more on that risk. So are you doing anything to deal with this? We've acknowledged the fact that there is white collar space which is getting together. There is a potential, if not already there is, where people get together. Employees are forming those unions in the service space and this IT space. Are you thinking through those issues?
See, it's a double-edged sword, right? On one side, I tend to not look at this as a risk, and I'll tell you why. Earlier, people spoke in the water cooler, they wrote anonymous letters, and I had no clue what they were thinking. I only figured out when they either resigned or they went and complained to a labor commissioner. Today, I'm getting to know trends and stuff a lot earlier. If I'm smart enough in tracking sentiment analysis in the others, my ability to move and fix things is a lot more. And like Gautam said, this has democratized it, right? In many ways, it's good even for companies. So I know if I have a relevant story, and you've seen many large brands who've been vilified, or I don't know if you remember this, I think there was this surf or somebody was beaten down saying, I use surf and my clothes got spoiled, but the brand recovered too. They went back and said, what nonsense, you didn't do it, this is what it is. So there is an innate fairness in the internet, right? So if you have a good story, you know how to get it out.
You're not acknowledging the
You
troll.
don't have to be worried about. But it's a very powerful medium. If you don't know how to do it, it's like fire, it will burn you. You've got to be careful. And I think today, both sides are figuring out how to manage it. We will learn it. But if we look at it as a risk, we will do stupid things. Like what we do in companies, right? 2 years ago, I said nobody can access Facebook, Twitter, because my clients, we work with a lot of banks, and they said a lot of my confidential information will go. What am I talking? This guy has a smartphone. He's Facebooking and Twittering and whatever doing there, right? So we have to move from a policeman to see how can I leverage.
As an individual, it's made you evolve within us. So you said 2 years ago there should be no Facebook to now.
So we still don't allow Facebook because, I've got to run a business, right? This is not just about college because there is confidential information that can go out. And my clients will not. I work for the largest banks in the world. They're not going to allow me to have a terminal that does both, has such access that data can go out. But we allow Twitter, we allow, Quora and the others because we believe that there are ways in which people will learn whatever. So we're both, I think, in some ways shadow boxing, right? We're figuring out, eventually the corners will be defined, and I think this will become as good as a radio or TV where you're not worried. But it's a lot more powerful.
I mean, I would want you, before you talk about what you have on your mind, this whole bit about people being prepared to deal with confidentiality issues, with sensitive issues. It is a double-edged sword at some level, and is that some grooming that's necessary when you allow? What do you think?
Absolutely. So there's no taking away from the fact that it opens doors and opportunities for us, right? I mean, what we're experiencing today, none of us were prepared for, and we still don't know what's coming. So from my perspective, the reason, if we don't know what we're dealing with, for me, it still stays as a risk. And where I'm coming from, Ilango made a comment about how you have conversations around water coolers and you get anonymous letters, etc. And at least in the social media, it's out there, it's in your face. But, and pardon me, but I recently read this research, so it's still fresh in my mind. A lot of employees, when they're asked about whether they're honest about their experiences of working with their current employer on social media, 55% of them say no. So which means that even if we, we expect the social media to be fair and democratic, I'm not confident it always turns out to be that way, because you can influence. You can influence.
You can only influence. And Sandy Carter of IBM, actually, she's the head of
So
social
you're
business.
saying that people are not honest about the organizations?
There are, at least that's what, there could be different
Shabni,
research.
here's a research that
I
all
would
of
like
us...
to add, 55, what she's saying is not correct. I think 70% of the employees will not be happy with any organization.
Yeah, and
So it is not Facebook or
And
anything.
from Hay Group research to Gallup research,
Malays of our times, yeah.
only 30% employees are actively engaged in the workforce. That is a data that holds true
True,
globally.
true.
So, and
You see, what I wanted to add one more thing. What the social media is doing is, earlier, a person in a project manager in TCS would not have gone to a labor court, which he did last week. Because he knows he has support from a group which has been formed, he has gone. And I'm sure that similar things are going to happen across all software companies, because they're eliminating a layer. A person who has been promoted, given good appraisals for the last 10 years, suddenly is asked to go. How will he take it? And it's going to happen more and more in this industry. It may not happen in
You
this
know,
industry.
Chris, I just want to stop you there. We must move from this, right? We are indulging in what
Fear-mongering.
I know, we don't know what the truth is, right? I think there's a respected company that has done some actions, and now there's so much that all of us have a point of view. My request to the panel is, we don't know what the truth is. Unless Mukherjee or their CEO comes in here, we should stay away from making. There is, I see letters, I see WhatsApp messages. You don't know what is true. Right? So we should, in this panel, my request is stay away from that. Let's not add to it, and focus on what data we know, is my only request, right? Because then again, I'm worried we'll create, this is going to go out to many other places.
No. The point is, we use that as an example to say that, is there preparedness? I mean,
Yeah, I
at
said
some
let's
level,
focus on the
organizations are not even
preparedness.
thinking that
Yeah.
this can come and hit them. So
It's
since
a
this is a
true-
learning forum, the whole point is that we talk about that only to say, who could have thought that this would have happened even a few months ago, but it has happened, right? So,
So I'd like the discussion to focus on, it's happened, how can we deal with it? I don't want to share any more information or speculation on what would have happened or what the other company is doing, right? Let's focus on the event and say, what is it that we as organizations can help folks here to manage that? That's what I'd like to focus on.
Can I ask a question to the panel? I mean, we've acknowledged that it offers opportunities, but we've also know there are pitfalls. So maybe at least from some of you sitting on this panel who've got more evolved practices in dealing with social media, what are some of the potential pitfalls that...
I would rather actually take it specific to HR. There's a lot of HR folks can do a lot of impact a lot more leveraging social tools. And it's not just for recruitment. For example, social recognition as a way of, peer recognition that goes on an internal social network acts as a huge enabler for employee satisfaction. And I have a friend who's actually working with a recognition management firm who says there's research being done right now that peer recognition can act as a predictor for whether a person is looking to attrite from your organization. Because let's think about it. Peer recognition is done for effort that is discretionary. You help out a colleague, the colleague says thank you and gives you a sticker that goes up on the internal social network. They found that when a person is disconnected from work, he reduces the discretionary effort but focuses all his job so that his manager does not notice that he's disconnected. But they found that as social recognition drops, it acts as a correlator or a predictor for a person going. So essentially, a red flag goes up to the HR saying, suddenly this person who's getting X number of social recognition over a sustained period of 2 years, it's gone. It's a attrition risk. And that is a data that HR can take before the no. And something as simple as
No, can you simplify that a little bit? When you say that, the disconnect is happening, so what do you mean by that?
so for some reason a person has decided I will move on from this organization.
Right.
Right now, traditional HR systems,
What is their behavior pattern then on?
they stop helping colleagues out. And therefore, their recognition from their colleagues drops drastically.
Interesting.
And the manager does not notice.
Can I add one thing? See, there are tools available in Silicon Valley. Actually, it's sold, anybody can buy, where you can go through the net for your employees and you can get early pointers. Who are the employees who are likely to leave the company? There'll be a lot of signals. So you can identify out of 100,000 people, maybe 10,000 people who are available, who are looking, or who may look for. So you can address them. That's how the social, there are tools available. That's what he's talking about. But I am putting it in a layman's language.
And these
Yeah.
are internal. So something as simple as in persistent systems, when an employee logs in, he or she is asked, how are you feeling today? And it's just 7 or 8 emoticons, smiley, frowny face, angry, bored, etc. And doesn't need to write anything. And if an employee has negative emotions for 2 or 3 days, a flag goes up to HR saying, this employee is not feeling good about working. And it's not, people can game it, people cannot game it, but as an instinct, people say they're feeling positive, they're feeling negative. And that is and in a large organization where one HR generalist looks after 200.
There's been a pattern
That
which
is
is...
a bit of pattern. Go and have a conversation with him. Figure out what's going on in his life. So these are actually tools that help HR people become more effective. Other thing, learning is changing. So currently, I'm not sure, there's this whole movement of massive online open courses. And we know people who, in traditional industries who are leveraging it to reskill their employees. You attend a MOOC from the best professors from Stanford, Wharton, Harvard, and you get exposed to the content along with a classroom of 15,000, 20,000, 70,000 people. There's nothing you can do in L&D today within an organization that can equal that experience. And those are what HR really needs to look at when it comes to social for implementing by HR for employees. And saying, okay, attend this course, get a certificate from Harvard.
What my sense is, and having tracked the space over some time, this again gets into a certain process. Somebody ticks all the boxes and says, I have this tool, I've done this, I have got this, I've got, and then you actually are not listening and participating in the conversation. So 2 questions. One, has it made your job that much more different and far more dynamic with the existence of this platform? Because earlier probably you just had to think of recruiting right, but today you're actually having to think about managing people right. My second question has to deal with when you have a set of people who are active, who are your badges for your organization, how do you deal with the stars? How do you deal with the stars?
For me, one thing I have seen, whenever a person has done a course, like an IAM evening course, whatever it is, they have a distant course, and he's paying for it, immediately he starts looking for a job. Because he has paid for it, his employer is not going to recognize it. So that's how we want the return on what he has paid. He pays about 1.5 to 2 lakhs. So there are courses like this in Cisco, CCN, etc.
Sure, yes.
Where you're not paying from the company. You have to be, there could be a red flag which can come up.
So somebody answering your question, it's made my job interesting. It's made my job both difficult and easy. I don't think there are many things that I have to think of and do.
You don't have to guess anymore, you know it at some level.
See, life's never compartmentalized, right? Each new change brings about uncertainty. Each new change brings about opportunities. I think there are huge opportunities that this has unlocked, from massive online courses to the reach to, today and I'll give you some examples of what's changed for me as the HR head, right? I used to hire 60% of my hires through consultants. Today that's dropped down to 20%, right? my cost of hiring has dropped by 46%. Today, I can track my talent brand index on a real-time basis. I will tell you week on week how my TBI is changing, right? While it's still not mature enough, my ability at leadership levels, we do a social media audit before we hire them. So I know if I'm hiring a loose cannon. I know to some extent there's a lot more footprint and data available that I didn't have earlier to make judgment calls. In the pre-digital world, I wouldn't call it social, right? But the pre-digital world, I relied on a lot of lag metrics. So what is a lag metric? It's happened. It's like a postmortem. Now I'm doing a lot of pre-diagnosis, like he said, based on patterns. We're actually we're running a few experiments. I will be able to tell you that if you listen to this kind of music, and if you read this kind of book, this is how long you'll stay. This is the kind of work. This is your retention. This is your engagement. This is the kind of work that you could do. It's still very nascent, but I would not have access to that.
How are you sure that this is not biasing you in favor of people who are social savvy, who are far more smart when it comes to
So let me ask you the
projecting
question.
the quick cues versus those who may be very good people, very good workers, very committed people, but may not be socially very savvy?
So let me ask you this question. How are you sure that the 15 minutes that you meet somebody, there's always a bias? You're either great at doing interviews, or you're great at doing exams, or you're great at social. You have to make a choice on which one. I'm not going to walk away from that. I have to be careful. There are some jobs, like for instance, research jobs, may not be the guy who's spending, I'm just making a judgment, right? You got to answer that, Vijay.
Yeah, I guess so, because when they're in the lab, we don't allow them to use.
Correct.
quite a
He
lot
may
of
not
stuff.
be spending a lot of time on
Yeah.
Twitter, but if somebody's, I'm looking for people who've got thought leadership. Has he bothered to write a blog? Does he have a white paper? It gives him a lot more lead indicators. You never make a decision based on one. I'm sure you'll be
yeah.
able to share that, right?
So in fact, just to add on to what you said is, I'm sure this is nothing new to all the folks sitting here. It's a balanced approach. We still use your psychometric tests. You still use all the batteries of applications available before you do a selection. And to bring a smile on Krish's face, there is still data indicating 50% of the executive search happens through normal process, not just through social media.
Can I add to this, Shelly?
Yeah, please.
What I find is when we do CXO searches, I don't see much of activity of those people either in Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook. Sometimes they're not there also. Or even if they are there, they're very, it is the biodata or his profile is very badly written. We have to write for them. So I will not use it to hire a person. I mean, not use that to judge whether he's good or bad in his subject. For instance, somebody says, I play golf and I am a CEO. We think at 40, we think it's not possible because if you play good golfer and you have a handicap of 8 or 10, you are spending more time on the golf course. And golf course will not lead you to success in your job. So these are indicators we see. Because today you have to really put in 18 hours to be where you are.
Any thoughts there? If you're tweeting, if you're very active on social platforms, how much is the time that you're giving to what needs to be done?
There are some jobs for which social is a necessity. When I'm hiring people in corporate communications, internal communications, PR, marketing, there is, specifically in some companies, there is need for somebody to be digitally savvy. A content person, I was having a conversation with a person who writes Flipkart's corporate blog. He says, I haven't been active on Twitter. There's pressure on me to be active on Twitter because everybody around me is judging me.
Yes, I hear
saying,
that all the time from a lot of people that I'm being asked to be very active on this platform, but it doesn't come naturally to me. I mean, what do you do?
So you're on the wrong role. You're a person doing content in a social world where you can't yourself be social. Obviously, you're in the wrong role. So there are certain
profiles demand that, if you will.
And so there's a person called Vala Afshar who's very well known on Twitter. He's a chief marketing officer of a networking firm in the US. He actually 2 years ago said, I'm only going to hire through social profiles. So if you have a cloud score of 60 and above and you have more than 5,000 followers, only then apply. Send me a tweet, don't send me resumes. I will judge you based on your social profile because I'm hiring a person for a social marketing role.
sorry.
So there is specific roles for which
Just before I come to you, how do you deal with the stars? There are many egos that are being bruised. The people who have that kind of mantles but don't have the kind of response that they desire or they think they should be getting. And at another level, you know, you become a iconic person of sorts if you have huge following, you become larger than life on this platform.
You
If you
always
have
had stars.
Yeah.
In the normal world also, you would have high
No,
performers,
but
your
this-
people who are your rainmakers who will get the deals.
Exactly,
So-
but
And we used to deal with them with kid gloves. So in the earlier era, you would get upgraded on a flight or something depending on whether you're a frequent flyer or a frequent traveler. Now it's your cloud score. So if I have a cloud score of 50 or above in the US, I get access to, you know, all these VIP lounges because they expect me. If they upgrade me, I will tweet good things about the airline. I will tweet good things about Taj at Vivanta, which is. So when I checked in here on Swarm, Vivanta sent me a message on Twitter saying, I hope you have a pleasant evening. So that's because earlier we used to incentivize a certain kind of behavior. Now we are incentivizing a certain behavior. And of course, there is a purpose for organizations to do that. It was then you get returns and people come and spend it again and again. Now it's people tweeting and talking about you because of your social profile. So
this brings it back to what she was saying at some level, that many people are not honest about the organizations, the views that sort of, that they put out there about the organization at some level. So,
Which is a risk offline as well, but but let me, I was reflecting on your question, Shamni, around how has it made my job. I think it's pushed me. I think about different things now when I'm making my strat plan for 2015-16 than I did 2 years ago. You know, beyond recruitment, one, it's an interesting time for us because as a company we talking about doing work on our employer brand, and there have been learnings that 3 years ago we would have never considered when we were building out our employer brand and thinking about how we get it across to our target segments. But the other interesting thing that from my perspective is the whole collaboration component within the organization, where I've seen a huge difference globally in the organization that I'm a part of. And it's collaboration that's not just networking from like a Facebook networking, but putting a very real business focus, priority or challenge there. So as an organization, currently we are doing a lot of work around customer centricity. It's not something insurance is well known for. We're changing gears and there's a lot to do. And crowdsourcing some of those ideas, getting people to help out each other, creating a community of excellence where people can share and exchange views. For me, some of those have been things that 3 years ago I didn't dream
it
of.
just opened your eyes to,
Yeah.
sorry, you wanted to say something.
I think from what Gautam was stating about, as an employer, and if I have a prospective employee commenting something negative about the company or the peer, I'll be a little careful before hiring him. And that's my honest submission. It's vice versa too.
So, my name is Gaurav. I come from a company called Happiest Minds Technologies. So, we do a lot of work on social media. We work on Smack Plus. So, the question to the panel is that when we say how social media is changing the workplace, is it going to become the core thing in the future, or is it still in kind of, it gives an aid to anything? So, we have spoken about a lot of things here. It helps in this case, it helps that, it doesn't help in that. So, it's still an aid to all the decision making or a process or whatever we do, or is going to become the center of attraction or core thing in future?
You want to take that?
Gaurav, I think it's a means to an end. the end eventually as a company for me is to serve my customers, make enough money to keep my shareholders happy. And if that's my core job, everything else is a means to that end that I get to. Today is social, tomorrow could be something else, could be tomorrow is maybe artificial intelligence, I have no clue. But eventually it's about, if you're a commercial outfit, it's about making money and keeping your customers happy.
Yeah, is there anyone else who wants to ask questions? Yeah.
Yeah, hello, Dhananjay from the Headhunters. None of the panelists have talked about WhatsApp. See, Facebook bought out WhatsApp because he figured out he has to buy out his next, the biggest competition that's going to hit him. WhatsApp is social media, I believe, and it's really not at all intrusive. You can't have HR people poking into what you're up to. So I mean, that is where the future is. So I think, the Facebooks, etc. So this is a statement, it's not really a question. Facebooks, etc. are possibly phasing out.
Agree.
Hi, my name is Vanita and I'm from saraswationline.com. We are in the educational segment, as some of you were talking about online. Now my questions are two. The first one is this, that I know that US and the Western nations started social networking long before us. So at this point in time, do you think that they are far more advanced, in terms of using the social media for their benefit? Do you think that they have an edge on us?
So data-wise, India is going to overtake the US as the most people on Facebook. Most active users on Facebook, India is going to overtake the US. So I'm not sure what exactly you're asking.
I'm asking, are they more networked than us? Do you think that it has impacted their businesses to a larger extent, considering that they've already been in the social media network for 10 years before?
You're talking about people or organizations?
Organizations.
So yes, organizations there need to be more. So for example, we come from a hospitality background. Marriott has an app on Facebook where you can say, what does a chef do? And it kind of is a game. And you go in there, you live a role for a week. And then you say, okay, this sounds interesting. Maybe I'll pursue this as a career.
No, why I asked that question was primarily because much of the business from the US is getting to India and getting to the Philippines and getting to these other countries. So I'm just wondering how it actually impacts the productivity or it impacts the bottom lines of the businesses in the US.
You're talking about business process outsourcing.
Yeah, I'm talking about business process outsourcing, and almost all of the businesses now, earlier it was business process outsourcing, now it's even gone down to, other fields. So what I'm saying is that it wouldn't have, if everything was hunky-dory in the net-based world, so I was just trying to figure out what is the direct impact of social networking on productivity.
So a couple of years ago, I realized 24/7 had started doing customer support using social for their customers. So in Philips, we use Syntel as our, earlier customer support was on phones and chat. Now, Indian organizations who are supporting global companies need to add a layer of social customer support also. When somebody comes and says, hey, my Philips TV is out of warranty, your dealer is not, giving that, it's a public statement. It's other customers can hear it. And it happens at a huge scale. So if 50 people say it, the reach of that comment is to all the thousands of people who have liked millions of people who have liked the page. So you need a customer service organization. If you not internally, then externally, that's what happens, to actually also do that. So Indian organizations who are into traditional BPO, customer support, are actually having to build the skill of how do we do social customer support.
Can I add to this?
Yeah, please.
You see, if you take the Indian telecom network, it is much more modern than the American telecom network. You wait for 6 months, Reliance is coming with Jio. You will find that at 100 rupees a month, you will get broadband. And smart sets, handsets at 2,000 rupees, not 4,000 rupees. Maybe 1,000 rupees also. So you will find that the market has exploded. It will not be what it is today. Everybody and anybody can have a handset. So the whole thing will change. On top of it, if you get into vernacular, which has not happened in India, the market is huge.
Okay, I think we will not be able to take any more questions. We have another panel coming up, but Vijay, I think, had something to say about this question, right?
With all these social media applications, starting from WhatsApp to Facebook and all those things, where is the time to work?